Well, there's a lot of talk in the media and by experts in relation to the housing prices and the possible reduction in prices because of the pause in overseas migration due to this coronavirus pandemic. Well, I don't believe that's the case. I don't believe this temporary pause of overseas migration into Australia, whether it be skilled migrants, permanent residents or skilled migrants and so on and so forth, is going to have any impact on housing prices. And why is that the case? Well, myself, I came here as an international student over 20 years ago to Sydney to study university. And just like myself and many others, you don't come to Australia, a brand new country that you're going to migrate into, and go straight away and purchase a home for yourself or your family. What you're most likely going to do is you're going to choose a place that you're most comfortable in renting. And you're probably going to do that for a few years. The reason being is you're new to Australia. You want to build up your support system. You want to pick an area that you feel comfortable for yourself or your family and your children. You want to get to build your friends and your family networks, whether it be friends in areas that you already know or friends that you're going to meet through working, etc. and so on. And so you're not going to go and own a home directly. So even if there's a pause in migration, it's going to be probably a few years before you decide to buy a property. And how do I know this? Because myself, like I said, being a migrant coming here as a student. And I have plenty of friends and colleagues who have come here on skilled migrant visas, have come here as permanent residents and so on and so forth. And what they do is they actually rent. And in time, maybe in 3, 4, 5 years and so on, is when they decide to buy. A second validating factor is that the government's National Home Builder Scheme that is targeted for properties below $750,000. And we've had a surge of inquiries in migrants looking and buying their own home. But it's not the first migrants that have just moved into Australia in the last year. They've been here 5, 10, 15, 20 years and so on and so forth. And such, because of this $25,000 scheme plus the $10,000 first home owners grant, they're looking at buying their first home. And such, it proves that a migrant who's moved to Australia is going to have to live here for quite a number of few years in renting a property, getting comfortable before they decide to buy. And now in June, July 2020, we're also recovering from this coronavirus. The economy is starting to open up, and it's only going to be a matter of time before our borders open. So maybe in a year or so, Australia's border is going to be open, and we're going to have migration coming and resuming into Australia, which means it's only in a few years that the newest migrant are actually going to be looking for a property to own. So all we're going to see is that housing prices are going to continue to move up because of the demand of first home buyers, because of the various grants and schemes and the lowest historical interest rates we've seen, and plus the ease of lending. We see more demand happening by migrants that are here in Australia for quite a few years, rather than us speculating just because our borders are closed, it's going to impact housing prices. And on a side note, in terms of Australia's population, we're sitting at around 25 million at the moment. And by 2050, we're probably expecting that population to be close to 38 million approximately. And that's what the forecast is. And that's all driven by migrants coming into Australia for various skilled reasons and so on and so forth. And here's another fundamental factor, that the coronavirus has actually created an opportunity for Australia to even become even more attractive for overseas visitors wanting to move to Australia. So there may be a situation a year or two ago where there's a skilled migrant overseas deciding whether they move to Australia or the European countries or maybe the Americas or so on and so forth. But the way that Australia has handled the coronavirus situation so diligently, so logical in steps to make sure that the health of Australians are protected, the economy of Australians are protected, it makes Australia even more attractive for a potential overseas migrant that may choose Australia now over another country. So I feel demand for migrants wanting to come to Australia is actually going to be even more than what it was a few years ago because of the handling of the coronavirus situation. So in summary, do I see housing prices dropping because there's been a pause in migration? Absolutely not, because it's for migrants that have lived here for quite a few years. that are going to continue to buy properties because of the various grants available and push property prices up. And the pause in migration will eventually resume and our borders will open and they will come in, they will continue to rent, make themselves comfortable before they decide to buy a home in a few years, and we're going to become even more attractive to migrants. And such Australia is such a unique place and in a unique position as an economy, as a country and a community to continue to buy real estate. And if I was you, I'll be buying property today.